Welcome back to The Calling. We are going to jump into another game here in round 2 in about 5 minutes. Before we do, though, let's talk about these games. And we've seen that these games are going by really quick. Lots of explosive plays so far.
I would call them lightning quick.
Yes, I would call them that too. Yes, they are lightning quick games. They don't bog down. It's just such a cool format in that it's very explosive.
Agreed.
It's very fast. But you can choose in this format to take a bunch of damage and try to swing things in your favor, and that makes it really interesting and very back and forth.
I agree. I mean, like, I was playing some games just yesterday, and you have these turns where that's exactly what you're like, I can take like 9 damage now, but if I do, I can come back for maybe even more. And that's definitely a consideration every single time you're playing, you're looking at your hand. And I think it's a definite consideration that you want to make.
And we've seen it in round 2 just a moment ago in the first round 2 game we're going to watch. We saw it in round 1 as well. And you can just choose at times to take damage so that you can set up a nice little 4 or 5 card hand and come back with even more. And I think I really enjoy that aspect of the format. It's one of the reasons why I like it.
Yeah, me too. I really like the fast formats. I think there's a lot of like really fun play lines, and like all of the heroes have the ability to do this too, which I think is my favorite. They're a little bit different, right? Because like if you're playing Oldham, it's going to be like really big, heavy attacks. But if you're playing Briar, maybe it's a bunch of like little arcane damage attacks over the course of a turn. Briar has the ability to kind of do, Lexi has the ability to kind of do both.
Sure.
Where you can do like big dominate attacks, or you can kind of do like a lightning style where you just kind of hit them with a bunch of, go wide kind of attacks.
Yeah.
So I really like that about this format.
Oh, I totally agree. And this is why at the Open I said that this is my favorite set and perhaps my favorite meta or format.
Oh, yeah.
Because it allows players, even at just like a casual level, it allows you to get a lot more games in and just like play with your friend. I think that's 100%. One of the highlights of Flesh and Blood as a game is you just get to sit and play attacks. You're attacking your opponent's attacking you. You get to kind of talk while you do it. It's a fantastic format for the playing of the game, in my opinion.
I would highly recommend it to anyone out there watching this. If you have not played Flesh and Blood Limited, specifically Tales of Aria, do it. It's a ton of fun, and you don't have to come in with a really expensive, like, constructed deck. You just need 6 packs for sealed, or, some friends and some packs to do some draft. It's an absolute blast, and one of the best ways to get into the game. And, if you're playing with a good group, maybe a good way to learn, too, especially if you have some folks who can help you, go through this kind of stuff. Especially for Limited, sealed in particular, because you can talk about, this card is better for this reason and that kind of stuff. I think it's an amazing way to get into the game. So if you're watching this and you haven't picked up the game yet, you want to give it a shot, I think sealed in particular is just a really easy way to do that.
It is a great entry point for players, and this set particularly great entry because it allows you a lot of different ways to build a deck, which means that you can talk about a lot more of the cards, whereas if you were to pick up one of the other ones and play sealed, you're still getting a great experience.
For sure.
Welcome to Wraith sealed is fantastic, but you look at a card pool for one of those heroes in Welcome to Wraith, and it's very specific for only them, and the generics can be shared, but everybody else gets their own card pool. Whereas in this, everybody kind of shares these card pools and can talk about what they think is good, what they think is not good, and that just makes for a more social experience.
Yeah, and I think we saw some of that in the last round where we saw a Lexi player playing with a very ice-heavy deck, right? And, you can go ice or you can go lightning. And I think there's a lot of, discussion there whether, you want to do that depending on your pool and what your pool can support. And that's one of, my favorite things about this format because, you have your heroes, but they don't always play the same way. And the elements really, really come into that, right? And I just love it. Sometimes, Sealed's very interesting because, sometimes, it's all dependent on your pool. To some extent, right?
Sure, yeah. To some extent, it can be dependent on your pool, but you do have the ability to look at that and really kind of figure out which way you'd like to take it because there is more flexibility. With there being 100%. Just only one generic pool, and then you have to build from the class cards you got as well. So great format, and I am loving seeing this coverage. In fact, I think we're ready to jump into round 2, and in round 2, we're going to see Dante Delfico, a top 8 finisher. I believe he's a top 8 finisher at the Calling Las Vegas. So let's go ahead and jump into round 2.
Looks like we have a Briar mirror match. I would be willing to guess we see some arcane damage this round, if not a lot of arcane damage this round.
You know what's going to be really interesting? It's going to be interesting to see what equipment is in play in this matchup. Because in a mirror match like this, the equipment will come into play in a real and important way. And so looking at the equipment, we do have on one end of things, we've got Sutcliffe Suede Hides, which can give go again.
I love that card.
Yeah, it's a fantastic card. And we have the equipment on the head. Why did I blank on the name for the head equipment? But it's got a great effect wherein at instant speed you pitch and destroy it and go and fetch a card from your graveyard and put it into your hand, an earth or elemental card.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Yes. Plume. It's the Plume. That's I was sitting there trying to Plume of Evergrowth,
Plume
a beautiful card.
Yes. So I believe this is a Shock Striker.
Yes.
Coming in. It's hard to tell the pitch value on this one.
It's either coming in for 4 or 5, I believe.
Yeah, red's 5, yellow's 4. It does have a decent activate ability for 2 resources. As an instant, if it hits, does an extra little point of damage, which is not too bad. Very interesting to note that Dante does not have any boots, and I think the boots are very important. Those Sutcliffe Suede Hides.
Yeah, he's very
come into play here.
He's very loose on equipment, as you were saying. He's only got Mark of Lightning, no other equipment involved, which is a little bit scary.
That's one of the things for Sealed too. Like, not every pack has an equipment piece in Tales of Aria, so sometimes you just don't get there.
Yeah,
and that can. I mean, I've definitely run a lot of decks in Sealed where I have like one piece of equipment, and it kind of feels bad, but maybe your deck is just so spicy that it doesn't matter all that much.
That's true. Depending on your sealed pool, you might just be fine with that. There are a lot of these equipments that are very gadget-y in nature, that they do one specific thing, and if you don't need that thing, then you're like, okay, it's fine not to have that.
So let's see how Henry blocks out. He's going to block with a Majestic here, blocking Fulminate.
Yeah, block a Fulminate and something else. The nice thing about doing this on turn 1 is it allows you to cycle your hand. If you don't see that use in Fulminate, then you just get rid of it and you draw into something perhaps a little bit better.
And Fulminate, it's a really tricky card to play, right? So I don't fault him for blocking with it. Even though it's a Majestic card, it's very flashy. Don't fault him at all for blocking with it. Very tricky card to play, honestly. And
it's expensive, too. It's 2 costs to play it down. But it does give you some benefit if you can establish it with perhaps an early game with a very full hand.
Ooh, got a Bramble Spark. This is a card we're going to see a lot this weekend.
Oh, he doesn't hit the fuse on this, so you're not getting the buff here. But you are just threatening 1 point of Arcane, which is always fantastic.
Yep, it's basically just free damage.
Yep.
And he's going to, looking at his hand, looks like he's got a Vela Flash, another Shock Striker, and some Claws here.
He's pitching, looks like Blue Heavens.
Yep, I think so.
Yep, it looks like it because he is going to pay for that. Most likely Vela Flash, I'd imagine. Nope, he's going to come with Shock Striker first.
Shock Striker.
This is interesting, too, because it allows him to set up an arsenal, and he can use the effect of Shock Striker to deal 1 extra damage with the 2 resources.
I really like saving the Vela Flash for later for a turn where you can really make use of its fuse effect.
Definitely. So here he hits with 1 point of Arcane from the Bramble Spark. That creates a Embodiment of Earth token.
Yep, and those tokens are it's one of the reasons why Briar can be very powerful, because you can be offensive and defensive at the same time.
Yes.
So you can come with a lot of damage, and then on your turn or on your opponent's turn where they're attacking you, you can follow that up with being very, very solid defensively.
Exactly. And choosing what to defend with here can be a little tricky because it did look like he had some great playable cards in his hand, did Dante. And if he chooses to, play that Singeing Steelblade next turn, which cost 1, you'd want to be able to pitch for that and threaten an Arcane yourself.
Oh, yeah, you always love to see a Singeing Steelblade in your hand.
Oh, my gosh, great card.
Great, yeah, it's very efficient.
Oh. And he was able to arsenal on his last turn a Lightning Surge. He's going to block with the Stir the Wildwood, which is expensive.
It's expensive. It's a great card, but, he's definitely got some spicy stuff in his hand if he's choosing to block with this one.
Yeah, and he's blocking the 3. It looks like this is definitely not threatening a ton of damage.
Are we thinking a Sutcliffe activation here?
It's very possible.
Maybe give his attack go again and then follow it up with a Rosetta, maybe?
Well, he could either do that or just play out the Vela Flash we were talking about, maybe arsenaling earlier.
Definitely a possibility. In this situation, what do you prefer? Because I really like the Rosetta Thorn, just getting that 2 arcane damage.
I do as well, because this is threatening 2 and 2, which is basically the equivalent of Vela Flash, and Vela Flash can provide you even more upside if you draw into like another Bramble Spark or something like that.
Yeah, because like as Henry here, I'm like, yeah, just send in the. Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
2 and 2, threatening more damage. You could try to rip cards from hand in that scenario, but really what it is pure damage. If they're not going to block this, they're keeping their cards, then you're basically just giving them lower and lower and putting them on a clock.
So here we have a go again from Arsenal. I do believe this is either
It looks
red
like the blue one, right? So this is coming across for 2 with go again, unless it is the red. If it's the red, it's fantastic.
It might be yellow. Honestly, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. But either way, it's an attack that requires either a block or you take some damage. It has go again. Basically giving Dante a, 5-card hand.
The best thing about this is the go again from Arsenal.
Sure.
Just threatening more damage. It lets you make an embodiment of Earth token if they just don't respect it. And it could possibly set up an even crazier thing down the line depending on what you have coming. And he did looks like he had a well, he's pitching the Singeing Steel Blade, maybe saving it for late game, and just coming in with an Autumn's Touch, which attacks for
it's a
very large.
Yeah, it's a decent attack. Yeah. Sometimes it's just good to push as much, raw damage as you can.
Yeah. And he did have a Lightning Surge in hand, which is a fantastic Arsenal card, again, so that you can do this exact same type of play next turn.
So as Dante here, it's a little scary that Henry's choosing not to block, because if he has a 4-card hand and that card in Arsenal, it means he's setting up for a very, very scary turn. Like we were talking about, this is a match where you can just take, or a set that you can just take some damage and then follow that up with a huge attack.
Yeah. And it's possible that that's what he's considering because he is weighing his options on blocks here. He has 2 Embodiment of Earth tokens, which makes the Lightning card in his hand block for more.
But blocking for 4 isn't too bad.
It's very true, yeah. Is that a Stir the Wildwood, though, coming from hand, perhaps?
I think so. It does definitely looks like a Stir the Wildwood. And if it is, it would be blocking for 3. Definitely in the tank about this, whether or not he wants to block with this card or maybe a non-attack. But keeping those non-attacks, and it is a Stir, keeping those non-attacks is good for Briar because you need those non-attacks to follow him up with an attack and then, chain that into a Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah, it looked like he had an Inspire Lightning in hand, which is an interesting card in Briar in that it doesn't have Go Again naturally. So if you don't have a way of giving a non-attack Go Again or playing it at instant speed, it's not great. But we do know that he has a Vela Flash in his arsenal, so maybe that's his play: is Vela Flash, fusing it, and then playing Inspire Lightning at instant speed.
So yeah, we do have a Vela Flash infused, exactly like you said. I imagine this is. His line is very, very similar to what you just called.
Yeah.
Dante is just considering like, hey, I have a 4-card hand. Do I want to block? Looks like he is going to block.
And I think this is a blue Vela Flash, so it does only come across for 3. So it's an easy 1-card block. At instant speed, he does play the Inspire Lightning, and he is fusing it, of course. Have to fuse it for it to deal damage. But that's just pure damage. That can't really be dealt with at all, so it's basically free, as we've talked about so many times.
And that's my favorite use of Vela Flash, being able to play that Inspire Lightning at instant speed. It feels very nice.
It is the use for Vela Flash, right? That's like best case
it's
scenario.
Like got there. Yeah, I got there.
Because it's as if you were playing, like a non-attack action card prior that's giving that Arcane to Vela Flash anyway, right?
Yeah, and Dante still has a 3-card hand. And a card in Arsenal, so he can still swing back for a decent amount.
Yeah.
Is on the back foot with at 11 health. Ooh, Earthlore Surge. Pretty good one.
Oh, and comes in with the Go Again from the Arsenal again. Lightning just coming across. We got, I think is it a blue Earthlore Surge? Nevertheless.
It's definitely not. It's going to be big either way.
It's going to be big, yeah, exactly. And it has Go Again. So either way, this is threatening 2 cards to block out. Or more, depending on how big that Earthlore Surge is. And once it does actually block something out, rip cards from hand, he can attack again.
And just followed up with a Rosetta Thorn at baseline. So that's non-attack, attack with Go Again, Rosetta Thorn getting that 2 damage and that basically free 2 arcane damage.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is the kind of line you really want to see with Briar. As a Briar player, you want to have a non-attack with Go Again, following it up with an attack with Go Again, and then follow that up with your Rosetta Thorn. That's kind of like the base play line here with Briar, and we're seeing it to full effect here.
And he could even threaten even more damage depending on what cards he has in hand that he wants to tap into to follow up Lightning Surge with this. And if this is a red Lightning Surge, then it's already by itself a breakpoint of 4, which is really, really disgusting.
Yeah, that's really interesting for this set, too, because a lot of cards block. Not a lot of cards block for 3. So, like, blocking for 3 is a premium. In this set, which I think is it's really, really good and really, really important to think about.
And then it looks like in his hand, I think he has a 2-card hand left, or maybe it's just the single card. If it's the single card, he has a break ground, which you don't love in Arsenal, but you can Arsenal. Like you want to use it to manipulate your Arsenal. I think it's a card that's super underrated, really, really cool.
I really like it, yeah.
Well, me too. Yeah, I think it's really underrated for what it can allow you to do. particularly in this set, because in this set you oftentimes find yourself, like playing a card, hitting its fuse effect with a card from hand, and then arsenaling the card you fused with. If that card is not a very good card to play from Arsenal, or if you can't pay for it, then you have the ability to swap out and jam it down from there.
Yeah, because it basically lets you take your card from Arsenal, put it on the bottom, and then draw a card.
From there, it just doesn't make it doesn't make a lot of sense to be in your arsenal, but it does make sense if you have another card to arsenal alongside of.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a very, very underrated card here. Definitely worth considering here. So, as Dante, do you think he wants to save that for Arsenal, or do you think he's just going to follow it up with a Rosetta Thorn? Because I do think the Rosetta Thorn is a really solid play just to push that damage through and get Henry's health down just a little bit. Henry is sitting at 15. 15 is a pretty comfortable number to be at, especially in a match like this. So the extra 2 damages.
And it does look like it looks like we've got technical difficulties on our side of things, as it appears that we're not able to see exactly what's happening in this moment.
So while we're doing this, let's just talk a little bit about how this match is going. Because I think as a Briar versus Briar match, something like this can be very interesting, and I think it can come down to these like really long plays where you can just push out that arcane damage, and the other class or the other Briar, you need to put them on the back foot. You need to get the tempo, and you need to get that arcane damage advantage.
Depending on where the game has gone as they're playing through it, when we lost the signal, so we weren't able to see what was happening right there, and they're trying to get it back. Oh, it looks like we are finally back. But in that last scenario, I was going to say when we were 11 to 15, with Henry being at 15, you may be okay with just taking some of that damage. And it looks like he did drop significantly in life from there.
So yeah, it looks like he's taking a lot, going down to 9.
Yeah, down to 9 from this play.
So 6 damage, nothing to sneeze at.
Very interesting. Did he not follow that up with a play after the fact? He does choose to just arsenal from there.
I do see a card in Arsenal. Yeah, very interesting.
So he didn't actually choose to attack with the Rosetta Thorn from that play.
And so we see Henry playing a Bramble Spark into a ball lightning, which is also very, very scary.
Yeah, neither of those. So the Bramble Spark didn't look like it was fused. Going to block the ball lightning out completely. And it's at this point that if Ball Lightning is such an interesting card because you can choose to keep the combat chain going and get the beneficial effect, or you can just play it as a normal attack that threatens something extra. And it's really up to the player to decide what their hand best suits, right?
Yeah, for sure. And this is like what I would consider a classic Briar limited line, right? Bramble Spark, Ball Lightning, and then now you have the option to follow it up with another attack action or just, good old Rosetta Thorn. So I think it's definitely a good place to be. And,
I absolutely love, by the way, I absolutely love playing Bramble Spark onto Ball Lightning whenever I can because it just says, okay, now all of a sudden this attack deals 2 arcane damage that you can't deal with in limited. It's just a really nice little play there.
And 2 arcane damage when your health total is 20 is a good amount of damage.
It's a scary amount of damage if you're playing against it, right? Both players at 9 here, so a very close game. One that's definitely been a bit more back and forth than the ones we've seen prior.
Yeah, actually a little bit longer game, too, I would say.
Yeah, so far.
A lot more consideration on blocks. Following that up with a Shock Striker.
Pitching the Amulet of Lightning, which is fun.
Ooh.
Oh, and then we have the Sigil of Suffering coming across.
I love this card.
Yeah, it's a fantastic rare to get in your sealed pools. You want to see these and put them into your deck immediately.
Yes, it's a card that is both defensive and offensive at the same time, picking your opponent for 1 arcane damage, but also, it's a defense reaction.
Yeah.
I love it in this format because it's a defense reaction too, so you can help get around some of those dominate plays by from the other heroes.
Especially if you can arsenal it. Yeah, it's fantastic for exactly that. And it was just the break ground that he arsenaled from prior, playing out the break ground just for the value. If it's coming across for 6 as a yellow, then you're just saying, okay, take 2 cards from your hand and throw them down so that you don't take damage.
Like at this point, like taking 6 is it puts you into the kill zone, right? You don't want to be at 3.
No.
Because like 3 against a Briar is very, very scary.
And look at the hand that we have here. Ball Lightning, Singeing Steel Blade, Arcanic Shockwave, and a fused lightning target.
Oh, but does he have the lightning card to fuse with?
I think the last card is the lightning card.
He does have a ball lightning.
Yeah, right. And then is that an entwined lightning as well? Yeah, it is. So a very dangerous hand if you can play it back on your opponent. So there's a really interesting choice here where you're saying as Henry, if I choose to block this, I'm going to still have a turn.
Yep.
I could block a little bit of this,
Yeah,
and then I could still have some sort of a turn that applies some damage, applies some pressure. But if I keep my entire hand and take 5, 6, 7, whatever this is attacking for, depending on its color, then I may be really, really low and susceptible to Arcane, but I could also just provide enough damage to rip out all the cards from his hand.
Because you can go Ball Lightning into... You'd have to start out with Entwine Lightning, fusing it, go again, and then Ball Lightning, and then follow it up with maybe... do you have a Singeing Steelblade?
Yeah, if you can string them all together, that's 3 attacks, all benefiting from the Ball Lightning. And it is looking like he's going to block with a card from hand.
He does have the Arcanic Shockwave as well.
Right. So there's definitely some plays that you can make here with the Ball Lightning, and so you want to kind of hang on to that for the go again on the Entwine, and for the Arcane Ping for the Arcanic Shockwave. So it's a really interesting decision because you do have to decide how the rest of this game is going to go. Where is the tempo going to lie after I make this block?
Because yeah, I mean, you can't just block it out entirely, because then you're going to give your opponent the tempo, and you don't want to give them the tempo. It's very, very scary. So he is going to block with block for 3 with the Singeing Steelblade. That's it's a very solid choice, I think.
I think from here what he's saying is what my plan is I'm going to play Entwine Lightning and then just use Ball Lightning this turn for the fuse effects. I'm going to fuse with it, and then after this go again, Entwine Lightning attacking for 4. I think it's a red. I'm going to follow that up with my own Arcane Trigger and jam down that Arcanic Shockwave.
And I think saving Ball Lightning for a different turn is a great play, too.
Yeah, you get to arsenal it,
for
right?
Sure. And that's kind of what you want to do with cards like this, right? Use it for the fuse effect, get that value, and then later play it and get the better value where you can kind of go off with it. I mean, Henry is at 4, so I mean it's scary. You really need to put the pressure on here. And coming in for 4s is not a bad place to be. But I mean, like Dante, from his perspective, he's got to be thinking the same thing. Like, how much do I want to block? My opponent's at 4. What do I need to keep in my hand to help push in the final couple points of damage?
Well, at this point, you're looking at the life totals, and you're saying, okay, I need 4 cards that deal Arcane, or some way to create Arcane or over-the-top damage. And we already saw a game end with a Mark of Lightning victory, and he still has has Mark of Lightning there. So it's really possible that he just tries to get that Mark of Lightning plus some Arcane to push over the top, right?
Would not be surprised. So I mean, Dante's going to take 1 from the fuse on this Arcanic Shockwave. It is coming in for some other, physical damage, and it looks like Dante's like, hey, I can, block for 3 because he does have that Embodiment of Earth.
Yeah.
And then Dante's going to have 2-card hand, 1 card in Arsenal. I think we might see some Mark of Lightning action.
Oh, and there's a Bramble Spark, so he's trying to trigger that effect.
Oh no. This is going to be spicy.
So this is going to be 2 Arcane, and it's going to be the Mark of Lightning push for the lethal. This is a Mark of Lightning win again, because if he plays Mark of Lightning on the Ball Lightning, it's going to deal 1 extra damage. So if there's any block whatsoever made, the game is over.
I was just telling Steven that I had never seen anyone win with Mark of Lightning before the last games, and we might see another one. This is really cool. I really like this. Yeah, I think Mark of Lightning is a very unassuming card, but you can see how.
Yeah, here
how
it is.
Good it
Block from hand.
Boom,
There's the Mark of Lightning win.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, and it's interesting too because if that's not exactly a blue Ball Lightning, the game was over the moment you played it.
Yeah.
Because if you block with a card from your hand in that situation, you die to Mark of Lightning, and if you don't block at all, you die to the physical from Ball Lightning. So there's an example of why you can hold and get your opponent down in life low enough to where they are just dead to a lot of things. Arcane, Mark of Lightning over the top, things like that. That was a very interesting way to end the game, very cool way to end a game.
And like, for new players out there, those are the kind of lines you really want to be thinking about, right? Like, what can I block with and still have that turn where I can just follow it up and just push through? And Dante, he got there. He found the line, and he took it, and it was spectacular.
That was incredible way to end the game. That was incredibly cool to watch. So that concludes round 2 from us, and that means we're going to jump into round 3. So we're going to take a short break, kick it out to a break, go grab a snack, go grab something, sit back, and we'll see you in round 3 here at The Calling DFW.